Hey guys, what's bad? Dwayne Alleyne back at you. Who are we talking about today? The Donald, President Donald Trump. So I had to bring out the bomber for this one, guys. Stick around. We're gonna be going over President Trump human design. Super duper interesting what we're gonna find inside of there, guys. But get your pen, get your pan ready if you want to take notes on it. It's good. We try not to make it too negative. We try to keep it on a positive note, even though that's difficult at times. But catch you on the other side, guys. So stick around. We're gonna have some fun.
This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
All right, folks. So Dwayne Alleyne, guys, your trusted life and business coach. Welcome to another episode of Outcome Control Business Solutions, where it is we help people overcome the obstacles by making high quality decisions, because we believe quality of decisions equates to quality of life. And so today, guys, we're going to be covering the President Donald Trump's human design. And again, as I'm doing these sessions over and over, it does get more and more detailed. So I don't want to take up too much time. Let's jump right in. All right, folks. So you should be seeing my screen here. Of course, you're going to be seeing on my right, you're going to see Donald Trump's Wikipedia page, which we'll just kind of review. In the middle, you're seeing his body graph, seeing some open centers, which we'll call undefined, and the colored in ones will be defined with some of the channels, etc., etc. And on the far left will be some of the breakdown of his particular human design chart. And so let's read a little bit of his Wikipedia page, and then we'll dive into the actual body graph and the actual breakdown as to what these gates actually mean. And we always try to keep these things on a positive note, because we do believe that despite how people may feel about President Trump, to become the President of the United States of America, it does require some decisions, right? It does require making, I would suspect, better good decisions than bad ones. So that's why we're using him as a sort of like an example here today, as somebody who would have made maybe good decisions in their life that afforded them the opportunity now to become the President of the United States, right? So, all right, so let's take a look at his Wikipedia bio here. So Donald J. Trump, John Trump, right, was born in June the 14th, 1946, American politician, and he was the 45th and the 47th President of the United States under the Republican Party. So he was born in New York City. Trump graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, became the president of his family's real estate business. So he took over his family's business, which his dad, I believe, gave to him, renamed it the Trump Organization, and began acquiring and building skyscrapers, hotels, casinos, golf courses, etc., etc. It says here he launched some side ventures, many licensing the Trump name, and filed for 6 business bankruptcies. So there's a lot of trial and error in there. In the 1990s and 2000s, from 2004 to 2015, he hosted a reality television show, The Apprentice, bolstering his fame as a billionaire. As a Republican nominee, he won the 2016 presidential election against Hillary Clinton. And you know, that's where the joke come from. You know, he only knows how to beat women. I know that will affect the YouTube algorithm there. But Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, they say those things were by design. Anyway, so during his first term, he imposed a travel ban on 7 Muslim majority countries, and also expanded the US-Mexico border wall, enforced family separation policies. He rolled back environmental and business regulations, signed tax cuts and job acts, so appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. He also withdrew the US from agreements on climate trade and Iran's nuclear program. He began a trade war with China, and he met for talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un without reaching a deal of denuclearization, right? So in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. He downplayed its severity. Now we're reading these things to see if these correlate with what we're going to read in as human design, right? Contradicted health officials and signed the CARES Act after losing the 2020 presidential election to Joe Biden. Trump attempted to overturn the outcome, culminating in the January 6th Capitol attack. You all remember that in 2021? In Trinidad, we were like amazed. It's like, you could do that? You could actually do that in America and live? Anyway, in 2019, he was impeached for the abuse of power and the obstruction of Congress because of the J6 in inciting that insurrection. After his first term, scholars and historians ranked him as one of the worst presidents in American history. Trump is a central figure of Trumpism. What the hell is that? This MAGA movement something. I know, I ain't gonna read up that. And his faction is dominant, well, the MAGA movement, right, within the Republican Party. Many of his comments and actions have been characterized as racist or misogynistic. Right, so dealing with women there, we'll see how that might play in relationships in a bit. And he has made false and misleading statements, promoted conspiracy theories to a degree unprecedented in American politics. Trump's actions, especially in his second term, have been described as authoritarian, but we've seen that with some of the tariffs, right, and contributing to democratic backsliding. In 2023, Trump was found liable in civil cases for sexual abuse and defamation and for business fraud. My goodness. We'll take a look at those things, see if that's inside of his design. He was found guilty of falsifying business records, making him the first US president convicted of a felony. After winning the 2024 presidential election against Kamala Harris, Trump was sentenced to a penalty-free discharge, and 2 felony indictments against him were dismissed. Trump began his second term by pardoning around 1,500 J6 rioters and initiating mass layoffs of federal workers with his good friend Elon Musk, which I did an assessment for. So if you want to check out that video, you can check it out there. His assessment and numerous lawsuits challenging illegality, etc., etc., etc. Trump imposed tariffs of 10% and higher on more than 180 countries, declaring U.S. trade deficit and national emergencies, right? So this guy is on a roll. He's on a roll. So they get to his body graph here. So you see up the top, his head is definitely open there. So we know that is inspiration and mental pressure. And like we said, these open centers are designed to absorb and amplify. We didn't get into his early childhood and stuff like that. You could go up and read up on it. But the idea is that we're just going to give some backdrop there. So inspiration and mental pressure, you know, he'd have received that from maybe somebody, and that he would have absorbed and amplified that. When you look at his ajna, which is the mind, which is the second triangle, which is actually defined for him. So that center, matter of fact, let's do this. Okay, yeah, so let's look at some of these centers and just remind ourselves of what it means to be undefined or open. So again, because the head center, which is inspiration and mental pressure, that is undefined for him. So it means that his strengths is open-minded, adaptable in ways of thinking, overwhelmed by too many ideas, pressured to have answers, right? We know for sure. It feels that way, right? Overwhelmed by too many ideas, doing a lot of stuff, signing a lot of executive orders. And whether or not he's doing a good job, I will leave that up for you guys to decide. And the decision-making risk here is making choices out of mental pressure to figure it all out. All right, so next up is the ajna, which he is defined in. And it says that he thinks in a structured and consistent way, confidence in their thoughts. Well, you can clearly see that. His strengths, good at logical processing and problem solving. Some of the challenges can be rigid in thinking, right? Rigid in thinking, not moving, not shifting. You know, you're going to pay that tariffs, right? Unwilling to consider new perspectives, like, yeah, I'm sticking with it. Decision making, not reliable. Mind should not make choices, all right? So, I'm not saying yes or no, I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just reading the thing as it says it, right? Anyway, let's go down to the throat. His own is defined communication and manifestation. Well, for sure. Speaks consistently. You can see that in the Oval Office. He's constantly answering questions, talking to people. Has a unique way of expressing themselves. Yep, for sure. Strengths, good at articulating thoughts, effective at drawing attention. Yep, he's a master at that, I can tell you. But then the challenge is that you may feel pressure to always speak or prove themselves. All right, so yeah, especially when things don't go as planned, you could feel that pressure there, right? Like for the issue with the Signal app, if you guys could remember that, and how it was leaked, even with issues with the tariffs that he had to go down to Florida to play golf, kind of remove himself from the pressure, right? And he has his way of doing those things, right? And this is the risky of decision making. Only reliable if connected to an authority, emotional, sacral, etc. Right? So we could see that it was only effective if it's connected to the emotion, which is the solar plexus here, which is actually connected through that 35, 36 line there, that channel which we'll look at. And this, I guess, is connected to the sacral here. Anyway, it's a manifesting generator, which we'll dive a little bit deeper into. So he's also undefined in the G center there. So we know that he's going to be, so when it comes to identity, direction, and love, yeah, it's undefined in that G center. So absorbs those different identities. The strengths can adapt, explore various identities, and be versatile, and can feel lost, directionless, or seek validation externally. It feels that way too. So everybody who comes up and talks about, any situation at all, they have to spend time validating him, right? And again, we all have these things, right? But we're looking at a person there, and some stuff negative, some stuff positive. That's not our job, even though I might be inferring or injecting certain things here, because it is what it is. Because even myself, I have an open G center here too, so I also have these challenges as well too, seeking that validation from others. But the point is, you don't ever make decisions in that area. So let me go again. I really want to focus on the defined parts, right? So defined in the heart, which is willpower, commitment, and self-worth, definitely has that strong in him. Definitely can commit and follow through. Confidence and the ability to manifest through sheer will. Yeah, like that elections, everything that would have happened to him with what you would have called the weaponizing of the American government against him, just sheer will. Still running for president as a convicted felon, sheer will. I don't know if the average American would have been able to do that, right? Like survive that. Whether that's good or bad, it's up to you to decide. Challenges can overpromise or overextend themselves. Think that's something that he's dealing with right now? I don't know. Decision making reliable for ego authority. Decisions should be made based on, do I really want this? All right, so that's the heart there, defined. Let's go down to the solar plexus down here, that brown triangle there. So he's defined there. That deals with emotions and waves. Decisions must be made after waiting for clarity. So strengths, deep emotional awareness, and richness of experience. Well, yeah, I mean, he ran for president before. He was the 45th president, so he definitely have some experience there. Some of the challenges can be emotionally overwhelming or unclear in the moment. May or may not have mastered that or have worked on it for sure. Yeah, let's see the decision making. Reliable for emotional authority, but he has to wade through those emotional waves. I think his second term in office, he has definitely improved in the area of managing his emotions. Whether or not he's still making the right decisions is another topic. All right, but I do think that he has a better grasp of his emotions, especially all that he has been through, surviving an assassination attempt, all of these different things, probably kind of nudged him in the right direction, quote unquote. I'm saying the right direction here because observing him now versus when he was the 45th president, things are a little bit different. He looked very uncomfortable in his first term. Anyway, let's go down to the defined sacral, which is life force, work, energy, and gut response. We know that for sure. If there's one thing I could tell you about Donald Trump, President Trump, it's a hard worker. I've heard reports that he don't sleep much, right? He's always consistently working. So has consistent energy for work, life, and sexual drive. That probably would have gotten him into some trouble there. Can sustain work they love, responds instantly. Challenge can overwork or commit without considering long-term impact. And reliable for sacral authority, listen to gut response, yes or no instinct. So he has that defined there, etc., etc. And all of the others are undefined, which we are not going to dive into as yet. So in the hope of keeping this particular session short, we're now going to tackle some of the channels that we are seeing connected to his body graph, to see his unique energies, and which will ultimately lead into his strengths, and see if we could tie it back into some of his experiences that we saw on the Wikipedia side. All right, so boom, at the Ajna, that 11 line that's coming down there represents ideas, symbolizes the generation of ideas and concepts, often leading to storytelling and the sharing of thoughts. We know that's for sure for him. That is balanced out by stimulation, symbolizes curiosity and the desire to explore and share diverse experiences. So I'm not going to talk about even though I highlighted them, I'm not going to talk about them. I just want to look at his actual strengths, conscious and unconscious, right? So let's go to 17. Well, I'll do 17 and 62 because that is actually a closed channel there. So 17 opinions represents the energy of forming and expressing opinions based on logical analysis and patterns, which I think most of us could agree, despite how we may feel about President Trump, being able to clearly state that there are only two genders. That is based upon logical analysis and patterns, right? So it's like, yeah, it's kind of like common sense. Anyway, 62 embodies the capacity to pay attention to details and articulate them clearly, essential for effective communication. So I think, yeah, sometimes it's difficult to say it, but yeah, he did a great job on that, despite how we may feel about it. And I'm trying to be unbiased here, right? So throat center. All right, so let's look at some of those lines there. So here's that 33 line that's going down into the G center, associated with the need for retreat and reflection, leading to sharing wisdom after contemplation. So usually when you observe President Trump, whenever things become tough, becomes hard, becomes erratic, he will probably jump on his plane and go to Mar-a-Lago, where he could retreat a little bit and do some reflection. And then when he comes back, he could gain that wisdom so that he could share. And if you notice, that 13 gate is the others who are listening. That's who he is attracting, the people who wants to listen to him. That 35 gate that comes out of the throat as well too, represents change, embodies the restless energy for new experiences and the drive to bring about change. We know that for sure, that's him. And also 36 is crisis, embodies the energy of exploration through emotional turbulence, often leading to transformative experiences and growth. So all of us are being sucked into that particular part of his energy, right? That crisis, right? And that emotional turbulence that we all experience, that people experience as he rolls out these different executive orders. Beautiful. Gate 12, caution, represents careful expression, choosing words and actions thoughtfully. Yep, I think he managed that. He kind of got that under his belt. I don't think quite effectively in his first term, and you can see here why, because this is an open channel, right? Somebody had to come in there, and I assume is helping him bridge that gap between that channel 22, which is somebody who symbolizes grace and the ability to be open and receptive, enhancing social interactions and artistic expression. So somebody's in there, probably filling that gap for him. All right, so that things make sense. All right, let's go again. That 45 line is a closed line straight to the heart, where it speaks about gathering together, symbolizes materialism, management of resources. Yeah, we looked at that in his bio with the the acquisition of different businesses, etc. Being promoting himself as a billionaire as well too, materialism, um, management of resources, managing his father's portfolio, the Trump organization portfolio, is often associated with leadership in economic matters. Well, yeah, you had to give him that, right? You had to give Donald Trump that, even though he has filed for bankruptcy in how much of our businesses that we just read. Definitely somebody that America looks up to in the form of, when it comes to money and economic matters, they look at him as somebody who is a master at it, even though he has all these failures, which doesn't necessarily not make him a master, right? Because usually the one who fails and gets back up is the one who has the most amount of wisdom and can share that wisdom with people. All right, that gate is closed by the 21 gate and channel coming out of the heart. The hunter and the huntress embodies control over resources and environment. We can see that too, renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of USA, controlling resources and environment, often leading to roles in management and leadership. That's a closed channel. Number 4, let me see here. The G center. Yeah, that's open there, so there's nothing flowing out of that. Let's look at the heart. Number 26, the egoist, symbolizes the energy of persuasion and the ability to market or sell ideas effectively. So yeah, for sure, he did that on the campaign trail and Americans bought into it and they were alert. So he attracted those people that were alert, that had the instinct to recognize patterns from the past, and that will aid in the anticipation of a future outcome, fostering preparedness. So a bunch of people went out and completed that energy cycle by voting for him, and it was a resounding support for President Trump. All right, so where we are at. All right, so let's get to the sacral center, the life force. So out of that, you are seeing the line of 29, which is the perseverance, coming out of the sacral, embodies commitment to experiences and determination to follow through on engagements. Well, we saw that for sure. And that is connecting to the gate 46, determination of self. I'm going to read through that. And then 59, sexuality, symbolizes the drive for intimacy and deep connections with others, but it also is connected to that 6th gate of friction. It embodies the energy of conflict and resolution, playing a crucial role in establishing emotional boundaries and intimacy. We spoke about that earlier with some of those charges of sexual abuse. Interesting. And I remember those stories of the prostitute and all of these different things, right? So has definitely a strong drive there, and what that strong drive is connected to that 6th gate, which leads to friction and conflict. So yeah, I know how you feel about that there. So out of the spleen, you know what? I'm going to stop there for now with respect to this particular one. You're getting a sense of how it's actually connected to his particular bio, but I want to get to the point here and then we'll end things off. All right, so again, Donald Trump is a manifesting generator. He's fast moving hybrid. His job is to respond first, then initiate, not initiate, then respond. Not too sure how he's managing that. Maybe he is. His strength is efficiency, multitasking, energetic, creative, and making things happen quickly. Once the green light is clear, we see in that the amount of executive orders that he would have signed in just the first 2 months or so. And we went into 3 months or 4 months now. There's a lot of, said he signed more executive orders than presidents did in the whole term. Some of the potential pitfalls is impatience, skipping steps, tariffs, right? Or acting without full emotional clarity. It can lead to frustration and burnout, but he would just go on his golf course anyway, right? So his strategy is to respond. He should wait for something to show up in his external world, a question, invitation, opportunity before acting, and he has to align his actions. His inner authority is emotional. That's his solar plexus down here. His decision making must be based upon clarity that comes over time, never in the moment. Emotional waves need to play out first, then he can make his decision. Avoid snap decisions, wait through emotional highs and lows. and check-ins. Is this still right for me? That's why there's a lot of concern over Iran and as well as China retaliating with tariffs. Like, what is that? What is going to happen? And we may not know this about President Trump, this solar plexus emotional side of him, but we are very much aware of it. That if China or Iran or somebody does something, he's going to act decisively. And in some cases, it's a good thing, and in other cases, it's a scary thing, right? He's a single definition. So his energy is self-contained because this is all connected here, especially when you look at the sacral, the solar plexus, and the throat, as well as the heart. There's this connection, right? So it's a single definition. Implication: independence. When he's clear, he moves fast and doesn't require hand holding. Sure, right. His profile is a 1-3 investigator and martyr. He craves knowledge and security, which is the investigator line. He also needs to research and understands things deeply before moving forward, and he's a lifelong learner. Also, he's a martyr through trial and error learning, learns by experimenting, failing forward, and gaining wisdom through direct experience. We read that earlier with the whole idea of the bankruptcies of those companies that he had, all right, which was highlighted. All right, so it's somewhere in there, right? We read it somewhere where it spoke about some of the bankruptcies that he had to deal with. Yeah, look at here. He launched 6 side ventures, many licensing the Trump name, and filed for 6 business bankruptcies. So a lot of trial and error learning there, and that's the martyr in him. Right? He's able to do that effectively. It says here that he's deeply curious but also experimental. He seeks solid ground but learns what works by what doesn't. So, and remember he was saying that with the tariffs, right? He is sending those tariffs out that look like random numbers, like that. Just ask ChatGPT to give me some tariff numbers that I can apply to every single country in the world. And he took that back, put it up in a nice document, and sent it out. And so now everybody's now responding to him. So he's basically learning what works by what doesn't work, right? So that's going to be interesting. This combo builds unshakable wisdom. So we are probably scared by it, but he's probably gaining a lot of wisdom from it. So his incarnation cross, his core theme, the quest for an ideal state, a personal Edom. Yeah, possibly, maybe for America. Through expression, experience, and emotional evolution. His gate 12, which is that gate coming out of the throat there, is caution, which we read before, and the gate 11 is ideas, which we highlighted before. So that way, his voice matters. He communicates powerful visions and emotions when emotionally clear. And you see that on the people were definitely drawn to it because they voted for him. And so there's 36 gate of crisis, which we looked at before, and that gate 6 of friction, yeah, that probably led into some of the experiences with some of the court issues, right? So emotional growth comes through intensity, challenge, and navigating the chaos of the human experience. And the big picture is that he's going to gain clarity and idealism into mess. He's going to bring emotional clarity and idealism into messy real life scenarios. Guys, it's not me saying it, right? I'm just in my bomber jacket, my presidential bomber jacket, laying down these things, right? Anyway, his journey is to evolve through experience and help others find emotional peace. So let's hope so. His signature theme is satisfaction, feels deeply satisfied, especially after productive action or creative effort. His not self theme is frustration, which he has to avoid, a sign that something is off. And he spoke about being frustrated when dealing with the president of Ukraine and president of Russia. So it's interesting to see all of those things play out. And like I said, I think he based upon his last term, I could see that he's doing a better job of handling his emotions. But he is making some decisions that are questionable. But that's not for me to decide here because I'm not injecting anything. All right. Advanced layers, determination. I'm not going to read that there. That deals with food. Cognition, feeling, his super sense. He perceives people, environments, and truth through emotional resonance. He may just know what feels aligned or off. And his motivation is hope. His internal drive stems from believing in possibilities and what could be. He's best when he remains hopeful rather than slipping into fear-based action or skepticism. His perspective is survival, what's necessary for thriving and safety. You can feel that. You can feel a sort of desperation or survival for America. He not with that deficit of how much of a trillion, 37 trillion US. It's a lot of money. He naturally evaluates threats. Sure about that? Resources and what will endure, right? I don't gonna inject anything there. Right? If he naturally evaluates threats, right? Resources and what will endure. His markets is internal markets. He's not for the mainstream, which a lot of people will agree on. He's for those who seek his unique flavor, and I guess the majority of America does. So we already looked at his defined channel, so I'll just read these things out. Clear communicator of ideas and systems, can explain abstract concepts in structured and logical ways. Resource leader in resources, money and tribe. We saw that. Natural in controlling material environments and supporting the group. Gulf of America, right, etc., etc. May leap into new, especially emotionally charged situations, right? Jumping into the conflict of Ukraine and Russia, jumping in the conflict of Israel and Palestine, and jumping in the just creating stuff, right, with the tariffs, right? So that's who he is. He leaps into that head first, apparently. And he has a strong emotional aura built for creating bonds, relationships, and emotional impact. And that's it there for the Donald. So guys, you will see from looking at President Trump, his body graph, looking at his Wikipedia page, looking at his entire design, you are seeing how things are lining up. And guys, I just want to encourage you all, if you haven't done your session as yet, your complimentary session, reach out to me. My information is going to be at the end of this video. Let's set up a personal session one-on-one. Find out what are some of your strengths, what are some of your weaknesses, where you would have been influenced either positively or negatively. But most importantly, how you can make the right decisions, overcome the necessary obstacles, and begin to control your outcomes in life. My name is Dwayne Alleyne, the trusted life and business coach. I'll catch you on the next episode. Not too sure how we'll be covering, guys, but I'm thinking about going after Adolf Hitler. I know it's going to be a brutal one, but somebody had to do it. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The Human Design Project is a framework for self-discovery and personal insight, not a definitive science. Our analysis is based on publicly available information and should not be considered factual or absolute. We do not claim to know the private thoughts, experiences, or personal beliefs of any individuals discussed. Furthermore, our discussion is not intended to defame, mislead, or misrepresent any public figure. We respect their privacy and contributions to society. Any insights shared are speculative interpretations meant to foster discussion, self-reflection, and a deeper understanding of human design concepts. Listeners are encouraged to explore these ideas with an open mind and conduct their own research. Contact life and business coach Dwayne J. Alleyne at 868-333-8048 to conduct your complimentary assessment today.